What up, y'all? Y'all know what it is, man. Your boy Trendsetter Sense. Of course, this is Chosen Journey. Now, on Chosen Journey, man, of course, we highlight faith, we highlight the culture, and we also like to highlight pillars and leaders that are making monster moves within the culture, within the faith, within the community. And I had to bring a pillar, a leader, on the Chosen Journey platform, man. And this guy's making so many major moves. He's impacting the city, the community. His voice is very powerful, man. And we're gonna dive into his testimony and his impact on everything involving in the faith, man. And I'm excited to have him here. Pastor Scott Free, how you
What's
doing?
up, family? Thank you for having me out, for real. This
Absolutely.
is really, really dope. Just an honor to be here.
Thank you.
And
Thank
I
you.
need to bring you along to introduce me to other places. I like that.
You like that?
Yeah, yeah.
That's the
Monster
DJ.
movement.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's the DJ.
You know, that's the, we gotta
You don't
have
know,
the,
I used to DJ. Did I tell you that? I
You
think I
did-
told you that.
you
I
did
used to
tell me
DJ
that.
back in the day. So
yeah, you told me that was
So-
the whole start. And then when you were telling me that you were moving, it was a situation where you were moving
I moved to Atlanta.
yeah.
Running.
No, but you were in like a
I was
moving
in
truck.
a moving truck. I was in a U-Haul truck.
Can you talk about that real quick?
Bro, you want me to go into that? Okay.
Let's go. I'm
Let's
straight
go, bro.
nose dive.
Let's go. So I was born and raised in Miami, grew up in the culture, got engaged in everything the culture has to offer, which led me just in prison, jail,
Yeah.
in Miami, Florida, which is not a fun place to jail
Yeah.
at 18 years old.
If you don't mind me asking, what did you do?
Drugs. So
Selling
drug
drugs.
charges, selling drugs.
Okay,
yeah.
okay.
Large amounts of drugs.
Okay. You moving weight.
So long story short, I got sent to a program called Job Corps because I hadn't graduated high school. Graduated Job Corps. So I got sent from Miami to Asheville, North Carolina
Okay.
for a program. Was there a year, ended up going back. My goal was to go to the Navy.
Okay.
I actually signed up to go, to the military and serve 4
Right.
years. And long story short, I ended up going back home because I had been gone for a couple years. And I jumped right back into, you know what I mean? I jumped in
streets.
my Cadillac, went to the beach. It was like a goodbye thing. It was like, man, I'm going to peace out for 4 years. Long story short, I get arrested again. Second day I'm back.
Wow.
And my life from there just spiraled out of control. And that's when my son was born in 1998.
Okay.
I had my oldest son born. And when I seen him for the first time, I remember holding my son in my hands. I'm like, I'm going to be dead or I'm going to be in prison
Wow.
if I don't change my life.
Wow.
So I end up picking up and moving to Atlanta, Georgia. And about 6 months into me moving, I found myself searching out for the same things that I ran away from. You know what I mean? I
Yeah.
thought it was my environment.
Yeah.
And, I found myself seeking out the same things, my environment, even though it changed from
Right.
my environment. And so, I was in a season where I was literally looking for the same things that I hated.
Wow. Okay.
The lifestyle stuff.
Yeah. Yeah.
Whether it was the drugs, whether it was, females, whether it was the party life, the fast life. And back in the early, this is like 99, 2000, right in the beginning of 2000, it was like, Atlanta was a little different back then. It was like, it was still wild.
Yeah.
I mean, it still is. You can still find wild in Atlanta. But I found myself moving about 6 months into that. This is the story you wanted to hear, right? I found myself moving, and I didn't really know anybody. So a friend of a friend helped me move. Dude shows up with tattoos, sleeves, tattoos on his neck. And, as a man, it's always awkward to have other men in your house, especially men you don't know.
Right.
Especially men you don't know touching your personal things, like your bed and your dresser, and you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I needed the help. So he's lifting stuff. We load up the whole U-Haul of a one-bedroom apartment. He's like, bro, do you mind if I ride with you? I'm like, no, I need the help, And the U-Haul truck is literally like a bench seat. So he's like 2 feet from me. And he starts sharing kind of his testimony of when he was in prison. And he used to run way down the East Coast. And now I'm like, what? You know what I mean? Like, whatever.
Yeah.
Bro, I've done all that stuff, But I haven't said a word. And he's like sharing a story about how he started to go to church while he was in prison. one night after church, he gets on his face in the dirty cell, and he says, so this is like 15 minutes into the ride. I'm
Mm.
not even like looking at the dude. You know what I mean? I'm just like, we got to get to where we're going. I got to unload this trailer, this truck.
Mm-hmm.
I don't really care about what he's saying. So the whole time I'm like, man, this dude's exaggerating. This dude, you know what I mean? Like, and he's like, I used to go to church and I got down on my face. And one time Jesus walks into the cell. So now I'm really like, man, this guy, you know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
Jesus walks into the cell.
Yeah.
And he's like, I knew it was Jesus because all I could see was light and I couldn't lift my head off.
Mm.
Then he says, Jesus started to speak to me. He says, you're going to get out of prison on this date. You're going to get married. I'm calling you in the
Mm.
you know, and the best way for me to describe what had happened, it wasn't like I was an atheist. It wasn't like, you know what I mean? Like I
Yeah.
always kind of just believed in God and believed like, okay, Jesus, God, but I wasn't serving him. I didn't know him.
Got you.
I was just doing my own.
Right.
And I remember thinking in my mind, so I stopped at a red light in a U-Haul truck. I remember thinking in my mind, I wonder if Jesus would speak to me this way.
Mm.
You know what I mean? I wonder if Jesus would like clearly just speak.
Mm.
And in that moment, I had what I like to call this vision of like every time I seen myself, I could have lost my life. It was almost like a movie reel playing in my mind. Could have lost my life, but I knew in my heart that God saved it. In that moment, could have lost my life, God saved me. Could have lost my life, God saved me. Could have lost my life, God saved me. And I seen myself at the end of this vision in Miami, Florida, getting on this bus with a skateboard in my hand in the late 80s on a Friday night. They used to take us to this little church that had skate park, basketball courts, and it was like this outreach. And I'll never forget, it was called Friday Night Rap. And they used to play rap music back when, you know, in the 80s when it was halfway clean, right? They used to play rap music, and there was a DJ there live playing. And I heard God speak to me for the first time in this U-Haul truck. He said, God, I've been pursuing you 12. You just been running,
Wow.
doing your thing, but I saved you. I saved your life multiple times.
Wow.
Even when I didn't know him.
Wow.
And I woke up to a car behind me honking. This guy next to me still speaking to me, you know what I mean? Like ministering to me. And I got afraid in the moment because I realized I've been crying. You know what I mean? I've been weeping. There's tears on my, so I'm like, as a man, I'm like, what the heck is going on? My heart's beating.
Yeah.
I'm driving this U-Haul truck, and this guy just it was like a 30-minute drive. The whole time he's just speaking and ministering. And I had this crazy encounter with the living Jesus. And my
Wow.
life was never the same.
Never the same. So from that point, is this when you committed yourself, and then this is the transition of becoming a pastor?
Oh man, the pastor part is a whole nother story. So that was me knowing him.
Okay.
You know what I
First,
mean? I
okay.
couldn't deny
Yeah.
like Jesus was real. Jesus was pursuing me. And so for the first few years of my walk with him, he he snatched me out of the culture.
Okay.
And what I mean by that is, bro, I had a massive movie collection. I had a massive CD collection. I had it all, Spec. And I had to go, and I hated who I was so much, and that represented my old life, that I threw it all away. I'm not saying everybody had to do that.
I get what you're saying, though.
I had to do that.
Yeah.
Because it represented, like, you know, hip hop. Hip hop to me was a lifestyle, a culture. I mean, it wasn't just the music; it was all of it.
It's everything. Yeah.
And so I dressed differently, bro. I was dressed in business. After I encountered the Lord and met the Lord, like button down shirts, slacks. Now I was in sales at the time, so you know what I mean, like kind of fit.
Yeah.
But for me, like what the Lord was doing in those few years was changing this thing right here. You know what I mean? He like completely snatched me out. He was helping me change the way I think in order to put me back in. And so once this changed, you know what I mean? Once I understood, like I had to change the way I was thinking, because the way I was thinking kept me bound, you know what I mean, to what I hated. He put me back into the culture. And then I could finally be myself for the first time in my life.
Wow.
I could finally be scot-free, right? I could finally be who God created me to be. I could rock the hat. I could rock, you know what I mean? Like because now I knew who I was and I know who I belonged to.
Ah,
And I understood my assignment. I understood my calling. I understood, you know what I mean? My
yeah.
gifts.
Yeah, yeah.
I understood all of it. And not that I was, I had it all figured out. I didn't. To this day, I don't.
Mm,
But he does. That's why I
mm,
follow him every
mm,
day, right? But I started to understand like who I was in the context of his kingdom. And I just believed him at his word. I believed his promises, you know what I mean? So I'm like, okay, the Lord says we could do this, therefore we're gonna do it in Jesus' name.
mm,
And I knew that what I encountered and how the Lord changed my life, all I wanted to do was let the world know. But let the world know in a loving way,
mm.
but at the same time in a bold way,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? In a way that is speaking to them. And so that's how I got involved in Christian rap music. We were doing block parties. We were doing block parties in the projects and the hood. We were literally early on. We got a trailer, and this is like 2002, 3, 4.
Mm.
This one they had a lot of projects in Atlanta. We would just open the trailer up. We had a DJ. I was like, what we need is a fire DJ, like a fire DJ.
Right,
You know
right,
what I mean?
right.
I don't
Yeah.
want somebody
Yeah.
to just push play.
Right, right, right.
Shout out to the real DJs out there doing your thing. We wanted a real DJ. We wanted like some dope MCs that could actually really rap and move crowds, right? MCs. And I was gonna get up there and just share my story and preach the gospel.
Mm,
And so we were doing that, and bro, we would have hundreds of people just show up at these events,
mm.
like on the block,
Yeah, yeah,
literally outside.
yeah.
And so we're giving away stuff, we're blessing the community, we're doing stuff like that. But we were using rap as a tool, you know what I mean, to engage culture, engage community, engage neighborhoods, engage people.
Right.
And so people were responding to it. And this is 20 plus years, this is 20 plus years ago now,
Mm,
right? Yes, 20 plus years ago. And so the crazy part about that is people were encountering the living Jesus, being delivered,
mm,
being set free from things,
mm.
being like you name it, being saved. And people are like, man, where's your church? And all of my team went to different churches, but nobody was excited about inviting people to their church because their church was just mad different. It was traditional, culturally different.
Mm.
You know what I mean? So when
Mhm.
people would walk into any person's home church, it just felt different. It looked different. It sounded different. Where's the rap? There's no rap. You know what I mean? Like
Right, right, right.
it was just mad different. And so that's the beginning of when the Lord started to like really kind of like burden our hearts for something more. You know what I mean? In the context of we need a place and a space,
Mm.
right? We need to create a place that people felt welcomed, that people felt like they could be themselves, right? That they could come as they are. Rock a hat, rock the Jays, rock the Eagles jersey, bro. Like, and just come as you are. Because I think a lot of times what the American church has done or the traditional church has done is like, you got to come a certain way.
Mm.
You know what I mean?
Yeah,
You got
yeah.
to have your Sunday best on.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
You got to clean yourself up first. You got to get right first. And then I could come to a holy God. But that's the opposite of the gospel.
Mm.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
God actually sent Jesus to pursue us. He leaves the 99 for the one. I just so happened to be the one 25 years ago, right? And so we were going after the ones. We were going after the people. We were going after the culture. We were going after the that historically have been ignored by the church.
Mm.
Because a lot of times what we do is we go after the ones that could do something for us.
Mm.
But I couldn't do nothing for nobody. He came after me. So we're going to the places where I like to say where the gates of hell seem like they're prevailing
Wow.
and plant a seed and watch what God does. You know what I mean? That's where he does the supernatural work in the darkest spaces and places. That's where God has assigned me to go. So we like to go right into the pit of hell. We would like to go right into, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then just be real, be raw with it, but at the same time, like share truth,
Right.
preach the gospel. So long story short, that's when we started doing a event every last Friday of the month. We started January 2010. Big Christian rap event that started with 50 people, quickly grew to 200 people, quickly grew to 500 people. Within the first year, we're doing 500-600 people every last Friday of the month.
Wow.
Then it grew to, we've had times it was over 1,000 people show up. last Friday. So we're doing all the outreach stuff throughout the month.
Yeah.
Now we're pushing people to an event that we were producing, we were hosting.
Wow.
We would have a DJ, shout out DJ Radical, right? That was our DJ, or is our DJ. And we would have a worship band. And then, so we have an artist open up, like a local artist.
Yeah.
We would have worship. I would come out and share the gospel. Then we have some type of national artist.
Mm.
So it was very, you know what I mean? It was 2 hours.
Yeah.
And it was produced very well. It was highly engaging. You know what I mean? And,
Yeah.
and everybody would always want to come through City Takers Experience.
City Takers.
Yeah, we called it City Takers Experience. And so shout out to Lecrae. Lecrae would come through.
Shout out Lecrae.
Social Club. Like, shout out to everybody who's been, everybody's been through.
Right,
and
right,
everybody would want to come through it. Like,
Right.
that was the place to stop and do a show in Atlanta. And so we did that up to February of 2010. We hosted Hovey's album release.
Mm.
Ray,
Yeah.
Tadashi,
Mhm.
Wanda, everybody was
Yeah.
there. And I mean, it was packed. The next month, COVID hit.
Wow.
You know what I mean? But before that, we actually planned it. So we actually started a Sunday expression of City Takers. Not January, September 2019 as well. So that's when we planted a church that met on Sunday. Even though we've been a church, a movement of,
Right,
a
right.
missional church.
Yeah.
But we planted what we like to call a Sunday expression that we call Crossover ATL, that we meet Sundays at 10:45. And then, but the Lord knew, a few months later, like the world would shut down.
Mm.
You know what I mean? Like every building in the world, every church building in the world shut down. And so that's when, I believe that's when the Lord really highlighted City Takers
Okay.
in the city of Atlanta and beyond, because all the racial wars were going on. You know what I mean? George Floyd, like you name it.
Yeah.
It was happening.
Yeah.
Like, politically, there was a lot of political unrest during COVID. Every building had shut down. But City Takers, like we were just doing so much in the city at the time. We're like, oh man, this is what we do.
Right.
We're just gonna go meet needs. We're gonna go love our neighbors. We're gonna go, like, we launched a thing called Fresh Food Fridays, where we're delivering food to people's houses in federally designated food desert, meaning they had no access to fresh foods unless they had a car. They had to drive over 10 miles to go get it.
Mm.
So we're delivering food to people's houses. People, because we're doing it every Friday, people were letting us in the house, literally, oh yeah, come in. And then we go in people's houses, sit down with them, and literally have church in people's living room, delivering food that they wouldn't get because they don't have a car. You know what I mean? So it was like the Lord just continued to open doors up. I was part of launching a mission called One Race Movement, which is on racial reconciliation and revival in the city of Atlanta. We did a big march called March on Atlanta, March on Atlanta, on Juneteenth of 2020.
Okay.
We started at Centennial Olympic Park and marched to the
I
Capitol.
remember this.
And then marched back. And then we had a band called Maverick City Music.
Maverick City.
Playing. Yeah. And so I was the one that got Maverick City involved in that.
Okay.
This is during COVID, by the way. This is like when the world was shut down and you had to be 6 feet apart from each other.
Right.
The city said you could only have X amount of people. I think 15,000 people showed up.
Wow.
I mean, it was crazy. I mean, it was just like a God moment.
Wow.
And we marched all the way down. I remember when that's when the kid, or the man who got killed at that Wendy's.
Yes, I was talking about by University Avenue.
Yes, right by, that was in that time, and that's when the police chief stepped down, and they just assigned a new police chief. I remember he came out of the Capitol. Right, we were right there on the stairs of the Capitol, and we got pictures. 15,000 people.
Wow.
Like, they shut down the streets. So the police chief came out, and we asked, as the church, Capital C Church, if we could pray over him. There's this super dope picture. I'll have to get it to you. It's like the brand new police chief, right, standing in the middle, and just the church surrounding him, praying over him. I mean, it was like this crazy prophetic moment.
Wow.
You know what I mean? That God was just using. So I say all that to say, then all these churches were like, man, how are you guys doing? Like, how are y'all doing this? Right?
Yeah.
We're like, this is what we do.
Right.
Church has to become bigger than Sundays. the church has to, go beyond the pews. And if we're not training and equipping the church to be the church, what are we really doing?
Mm,
You know
mm.
what I mean? The church was never about entertainment. It was about mission. It was never about like, you know what I mean? Like us just going and listening. It was more about listening to be equipped to go do.
Right.
And Ephesians 4 talks about like the fivefold ministry, right? The apostles, the pastors, the evangelists, the teachers, you know what I mean? To come together for the equipping of the saints for the work of ministry.
Mm,
And I think what we've done is we've inverted what Jesus established to say, like, all the people in the church, the staff do the ministry, and you come listen to what we have to say. When it's more about, like, I want to impart into you so that you could live out your purpose, so that you could do the things that God has called you to do, commissioned you to do. How do I get behind you to do that?
wow.
Jesus said, when you submit to me, you'll do greater things than even.
Mm.
And so kingdom submission is like submitting yourself to, you know what I mean? Shepherd, submitting yourself to godly leaders so that you can do greater things than they should want you to do.
That's a great point that you say that, because sometimes, and I guess it's like it's a human thing for the shepherds and the leaders to. Do you feel like sometimes they make it about them and not the people that
I
they're
think
pouring into?
unfortunately a lot of people do.
Yeah, it's
You
like
know what I mean?
it's a
I
human
think
nature.
it's part of I think it's part of the fallen nature, right? Of like pride,
Mm.
ego, platform, position, prestige, money. You know what I mean? All of these things cloud people's assignment. And I think sometimes we get caught up in what's on the wall here. Praise God for you know what I mean, celebrating
Mm.
moments and celebrating, you know what I mean, achievements. Like part of me is like, dang, I want a plaque like that with my name on it. You know what I mean? But it's not about that.
Mm.
To me, it's about the people that are attached to it.
Okay.
You know what I mean? I'm looking at a plaque right now that says 2 million sales.
Yes.
Praise God for that's really dope that artist got to sell 2 million.
Okay.
But 2 million people are attached to that number.
Right.
And for me, it's about the impact and the transformation on 2 million people that we can have.
Mm. Mm.
Not so much about
Wow.
the end result.
Right.
To me, the
Right.
end result should be like, what did I impart into them? How are they living out their God-given talent, gift, and purpose on this earth? Because every single one of them is a child of God, made in the image of God. You know what I mean? So now I think a lot of times people chase that, the plaque or the position or the title or all of the stuff, instead of worrying about, like, you know what I mean? Like, what am I imparting into people
Right.
and what do the lives of the people look like?
Mm.
Because a lot of times, man, don't get me started on, you know what I mean? Like what's really happening behind the scenes. But I think unfortunately, like, people get caught up.
Yeah.
I've seen money ruin people.
Mm.
I've seen platform ruin people. I've seen fame ruin people. I've seen all of it.
How do you keep your balance as a shepherd?
Um, Having the right people around you.
Okay.
Real talk. I think it's all about having the right people. I think if you don't have the right people that have access to the real you,
Okay.
you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like not the fluffy stuff,
Yeah.
not not this stuff.
Yeah.
Like this stuff is cool. This stuff is gonna attract people
Yeah.
and it's gonna speak to people.
Mm-hmm.
But I have people in my life that know the real Scott and
Mm.
could ask the real questions.
Okay.
They're like, yo, bro, like really, how are you?
Okay.
Like what's really going on?
Okay.
Or they might say like, yo, you don't seem like yourself, bro. What's and that I can confide in, that ain't gonna go around and put me on blast.
Got you.
That's gonna love me through. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That wants the best for me, my family.
Mm.
I got guys in my life that look out for me.
Mm.
Not for what I could do for them.
Ah.
Not for, you
Mm.
know what I mean?
Good
Like
point.
to get on City Takers, not for, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Anything. outside of like, bro, I love you and I
Mm.
want to make sure you're okay.
Mm.
Because if you're not okay, none of this is okay.
Wow. Scott Free is here. Pastor Scott Free, City Takers. Of course, this is Chosen Journey, Trendsetter Sense. Let's talk about your mission work, um, the prisons that you go to, and the prisoners that you've spoken to, and then part of your staff have
Yeah.
come from the prisons. Can you just kind of dive
Yeah.
into those experiences?
Yeah. So again, we like to go where, we say the gates of hell are prevailing. I love going to prisons because, not because I had been there, but because there's just broken people looking for hope, looking for a way out, looking for an answer. And so I love going, bringing the hope. I love going, bringing peace. I love going, bringing the gospel. I'll give you one story, a couple things. One is one of my right hand guys, call him Jay Cross. He's now a pastor in our church. He heard one of our, we do a City Takers podcast / radio show. We're putting Christian rap on. He heard that while he was in prison
Mm.
on one of the
Crazy.
local radio stations. Then he got out of prison and came to our Friday City Takers experience, the last Friday event. Um, and then he just got involved, just started coming around. You know what I mean? I invited him to come hang. Sure, like, I come hang, and I'm like, yeah, just come be. You know what I mean? Like, come
Right.
serve, come be around. And I do watch people.
Right,
I ain't
right,
gonna
right.
lie. You know what I mean? And I like check people in a way of like, are they here for what we could do for them? Or are they here to really just put their hands to the plow and serve?
Got you.
Are they here with the right heart?
Got you.
What is their intentions? Sometimes I let people serve for years, just watching them. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
real talk. Like where you at? Like what's going? But as God highlights people to me, I'll just kind of like bring them closer, bring them in, and just start walking with them,
Right.
like in a real way. He was one of them. Started walking with him, bro. I walked with him for 8 years. He was in and out. He would do something back in prison. I'm like, dog, you got to get out of your environment.
Wow.
Get out of, you know what I mean? So long story short, 2 years ago, we moved him down into the city to be full time with City Takers. He's now working as urban missionary in one of our partner complexes. So we get apartments in some of these lower income housing units
Okay.
because we partner with a friend of mine who's a developer. And so they give us apartments to house urban missionaries to minister to the community,
Wow.
as well as different things, block parties, you name it,
Yeah.
back to school events.
Mm.
So he is the community coordinator, at Dwell Park. Shout out to Dwell. Shout out to my boy Hessel. But that's a 10-year, you know what I mean, walking with. And I think a lot of times what happens is because the 8-year process of him messing up and making bad decisions, a lot of times people are just like, I ain't got the time, bro. I told you what you should do. You didn't do it. You know what I mean? And they walk away from
Wow.
the person.
Yeah, yeah.
But for me, again, it's not so much about the end result as much as the journey.
Right. The journey.
You know what I mean? Like, what if Jesus would have been like, yo, Peter, man, I told you you gonna do that. Bump it. I'm out. You know what I mean? He was like, nah, Peter, like, do you love me? You know what I mean? If you love me, do what I've told you to do. Go feed my sheep.
Mm.
And so for me, now, bro, look at it. Now look at his life. Like I had lunch with him literally yesterday. He's like, man, I'm living out what God has called me to do. But had we given up on him, who knows how long it would take him to get there. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And there's a lot of brothers like that out there. I was him.
Mm-hmm. Got you.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It was like, who's gonna come love on me and give me the opportunities? We like to say a place and a pathway to purpose.
Mm.
So the place is the church. It's always been the church. That Jesus's answer to a dying and broken world, his plan A is, and there's no plan B.
Right.
We just got to step into, as this generation, as this culture, we got to step into what God is mission and calling us in a real way, but at the same time without watering down the word.
Without the water down. Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
and so, yeah, bro, we've been doing prison stuff for a long time, and I helped a lot of people do prison ministry, getting into prisons, preaching the gospel. I love it. I love bringing rap music into it.
Right, right.
You know what I mean? Because it's like, bro, it just speaks the language.
Mm-hmm.
And so I brought Few down, P Sun down, you name it. I brought everybody into different prison stuff, and they,
We
you
got
know
to
what I
bring
mean?
Chosen Journey
We got to
to
bring,
yeah,
yeah, we got to do it, bro.
yeah,
Like, and people who are like, people just who got that real, you know
yeah.
what I mean? That real sound,
Right, right.
that real raw edge to them. Because like you go into the prisons and can't bring. One time I was in there, they're like, "Man, that's bubblegum rap."
That's funny.
I'm not gonna name the artist who it was,
Oh
but it
man,
wasn't Few or and Peace. Like I got to bring the real into
I
those
know what you're
spaces and
saying.
places
Yeah,
because otherwise, like that's just. And I think what it does, it allows people to let their guard down,
mm.
especially when it's dope.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? They're like, oh, this is Christian.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, and I got my boy Speck over here, by the way.
Shout out Spec in the building.
And it's like when it's dope, people respect it. They gotta respect it, and they're like, "Oh man, this is fire."
Right.
Then when you preach the gospel,
Mm.
and they're like, "Yo," because the word is carrying power
Right.
and anointing
Right.
that they've never experienced before, just like I hadn't when I first encountered him. And so, like, bro, the response in the prisons is just like always like literally and I'm not boasting in this, like almost everybody responds.
Mm.
And that's how we go in, right?
Yeah.
We're gonna I want to reap a harvest. I want to see people encounter him. And so the response, I mean, even the wardens have told us, like, yo, like, I don't know what y'all are doing, but people are changing. The way that they're treating the officers are changing. The way the officers are treating the men are changing. You know what I mean? So it's literally like revival breaks out in the prison. And what happens after is the real fruit.
Mm.
That makes sense? So
Absolutely.
it's what's happening after. Like churches are birthed, like men, like I got a guy right now down in Miami that he's preaching 3 times a week. He's a prisoner.
Mm.
But he's called by God and he's really a shepherd. He's really a pastor. But he's pastoring people in the prison right now without anybody's permission, without anybody, you know what I mean? Like telling him he should. He's just doing it.
Wow.
They're leading worship together and they're having church more than we have church.
Wow.
But it was because we went in there, you know what I mean, and sparked something, did something, and affirmed them and blessed them. Because here's the deal: it's like everybody needs to be reached, right? Everybody needs to be equipped, right? Like you got a gift in you that God put in you when you were in your mother's womb. The Bible says that the gifts and the call of God are irrevocable. You can't give them back, right? They're in you. But a lot of times you don't understand it, you don't know it until somebody comes along and be like, hey man,
Right.
this is who you are, right? And this is what you know what I mean? And give you opportunities to use your gift. Use what God has called you to do. As you start walking in that, as you start using it, you start to realize, you start to come alive. Because when you're walking in God's purpose and God's call, that brings fulfillment. That brings joy. A lot of people are chasing fulfillment and all the wrong things.
Ooh.
That'll leave you unfulfilled and you'll look for the next thing to fulfill you. The only thing that brings real fulfillment is walking in God's purpose. Real talk, walking in God's purpose.
Wow.
And that's what we do, right? It's like, I want to create a pathway for purpose for anybody to walk.
Wow.
Because everybody's called. Everybody's ministers of the gospel. That's what was happening when you read the book of Acts. 3,000 were added. And the woman at the well, she goes and tells her whole village about this man, Jesus, that she just encountered. Like, it was like kingdom multiplication happening.
Kingdom multiplication.
It was not about, hey, come over here, you know what I mean, and listen to what I got to say, even though that was happening, but it was bigger than that. And so for me, it's about like going into places, training, equipping, affirming child of God, like you've been forgiven, past, present, and future. Walk in the newness of life. Do what God is telling you to. You know, and so we're seeing like kingdom multiplication happen beyond platform,
Mm.
beyond plaques on the wall, beyond Christian rap music.
Mm.
You know what I mean? Like people are coming alive because God sees them, God hears them, God knows them, God has called them
Mm.
for purpose beyond what they can see.
Mm. Pastor Scott Free, talk about everything you have coming up, the City Takers movement, all the events,
Yeah,
websites,
do it.
socials. You got a lot of stuff going on, man.
We do got a lot of stuff going on, and the beautiful thing about it is, people don't have to be a part of everything, but God is doing some pretty amazing things. The first thing we got coming up, I want to talk about two things. One is a big street basketball festival, whatever we want to call it.
Okay.
Block party.
Yeah.
So we're renting out this court down on the west side of Atlanta it's called Melvin Drive Park. And this is on June 28th, so it's a couple Saturdays away.
Okay.
At 6 p.m., I got a friend of mine named Victor who runs an organization called Court Kings.
Okay.
They travel the world. They're massive in South America. They're pulling like 15, 20,000 people in these, he calls it these unknown courts. You know what I mean? In these places and spaces that nobody goes to, but basketball is massive. And so we're going to do a big street ball thing where it's going to be a 3-on-3 tournament. Snipes. Snipes. Snopes. That's a website, right? Snipes is an urban clothing store in a lot of malls.
Okay.
They're a sponsor. We're going to be involved. There's a couple more sponsors. But 6 p.m., Melvin Drive Park, and it'll be on our socials, City Takers.
City Takers.
Right? That's one thing we got coming up. It's going to be dope. We're going to have a DJ playing music. Might have a couple artists.
Mm-hmm.
We'll see. And we're just going to get there, love on people, love on the community, put on a dope basketball tournament. Some of these guys are really fire with it. Just like, remember the and one stuff back in the day?
Yeah.
It's just going to be just like
That's
that.
dope. Yeah,
it's going to be dope.
Yeah.
The next thing we got coming up after that is doing a big concert down in Southwest Florida. We playing at a mission base down in Southwest Florida. So we're going to have 7 and a couple other dudes. I can't remember off the top of my head who's going to be there. But that is going to be on July 28th.
Okay.
Down in Southwest Florida. Also, the same day, this happened by accident, right? We're doing our big back-to-school thing here at Cascade Skating Rink.
Okay. All right.
So we're shutting down the whole skating rink.
Yeah.
Right.
Chosen Journey got to be a part. We got to be.
Chosen Journey going to be a part of that. Right.
Yeah.
You can be a part of all of it.
Let's do it.
We're giving away thousands of backpacks full of school supplies to kids who would ordinarily go to school without everything they need.
Okay.
So we're going to be making sure that they got everything they need. We're going to be doing haircuts live. Right. Cascade is partnering with us. So
okay.
Kids will be able to skate, just have a good time. You know what I mean? But we're going to have artists there as well. I don't exactly know who yet. But I know
I'm gonna help make it happen.
We've been talking to Reach and we've talked to Lecrae and all these guys, so I'm sure they'll be involved as well. But that's that. The very next weekend, we're gonna have another big event in the city off Fulton Industrial. Kind of do almost the same thing, but in a different part of town. And then we got a big event that we partner with a couple churches out in Portland, Oregon.
Okay.
A big outreach called Day in the Park. We shut down this big park in southeast Portland. I don't know if you know anything about Portland.
I've been to Portland.
Portland is you been to Portland?
Portland is very interesting. Yes.
I feel like
I know where you're going with it.
Yeah, a lot of what's happening in the nation, a lot of things start in Portland.
Because it's a port. And
port land.
Exactly.
Boy, that's a word, bro. It's a port to the land.
So everything is coming there first from that side of the world.
Oh.
Including the drugs, including...
I don't know if you don't know everything you just said. Portland, I don't know if you know this too. Portland legalized all drugs. Where there's it's not a crime. I mean, hard
and
drugs.
When you go there,
heroin,
you can tell.
Like all of it.
And you can tell when you're over there.
So I say that to say, like, again, part of our heart is like to go where the gates of hell are prevailing. So we go, right? We bring Christian rappers. and we go to the gates of Hades, and we, you know what I mean, like preach the word of God. And bro, and we baptize people in the park. I mean, you should go.
Let's do it.
And one time, I'll tell you this quick story about that event, and that's coming up the last Sunday in August. It's Labor Day weekend. That's in Lentz Park, Southeast Portland. A couple years ago, I was there, and there's some weird stuff that goes down in Portland. There was a guy. I'm not lying. Walking people with dog collars and chains. Park. There was a man and a woman on all fours walking like a dog, and this guy was walking them on a leash. Demonic. I don't know how else to describe that.
Yeah.
Weird would be a word that I would use, but the core of it is demonic.
Right.
Like, nobody should be walking like a dog.
Right.
And nobody should have a dog collar on them with a chain that another man is. I mean, it was crazy. I'm on the stage. I'm preaching the gospel, right? The people who were acting like dogs got up and ran away.
Wow.
But the guy who was walking with them stayed.
Wow.
Or walking, not with them, walking them.
Right.
Stayed. Long story short, after I get done, I get down and we're praying for people. I just felt led to walk up to this dude. This dude had chains, like dog collar chains around it. Like, he put the chains around his neck.
Right.
This dude ends up literally on the floor, like throwing up at the mouth. Like, I don't know how else to describe it outside of, like, the man was delivered. We took him. I said, man, I feel like you're supposed to get baptized now that you had this encounter. This man gave the craziest testimony about that day. We ended up baptizing him. He ended up going to the church that we partner with up there. Shout out to Revolution, Pastor Alpha. So this man was radically, you know what I mean, transformed just by us bringing Christian rap into the community. But it was bigger than Christian rap, because if we would have just done, you know what I mean, the fun stuff, I don't know if there would have been any real change and transformation.
Right.
But we, like, really engage people. There's a bunch of stuff for kids, you know, there's all kind of other stuff. But it's just like, you know what I mean? Like, I want to engage people like that.
Right.
And Christian rap is doing it. You know what I mean? But we still need to do more. It needs to be more than music. It needs to be really engaging people's lives. We need to get down with the people. You know what I mean? We need to meet needs of the people. Because I think, again, Christian rap is a tool. And it's an amazing tool that we're going to continue to use.
Right.
But it has to go beyond just the, you know what I mean? Like,
absolutely.
I would say,
Participation.
yeah, we got to participate in all this stuff. I always say music is one of the dopest art forms that touches you, but you can't touch it. You know what I mean? It's something that's you can't grab and touch. But the beautiful thing about the church, right, is like we should be able to touch each other. Like, stuff like this is dope, but it got to go beyond it.
Gotcha.
You know what I mean? Like, you got to be like real family, real community.
Right.
Real people. Got to use social media. Got to use, you know what I mean, podcasts. Got to use music. But still, like, Jesus is really alive.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? And he really ministers to you. He could really show up in your life.
Absolutely.
And you could really have an encounter with him. He really wants to spend time with you. You know what I mean? He isn't a virtual thing. He is real. He's no longer in the tomb. He's no longer on the cross. You know what I mean? He's seated at the right hand of the Father, and he leaves his spirit. And his spirit lives inside, could live inside of you. You know what I mean? It changes the game.
Pastor Scott Free, man.
Sorry if I'm talking all that, bro. I'm excited. I get excited about this stuff.
Listen. It's a pleasure to have you. I'm grateful that you came, and I love what you're doing, the City Takers movement.
Yeah.
And this is only the beginning, man.
Real talk. It really is.
Of our collaborations and brotherhood and what we're doing, man. And you see it here, man.
Yeah.
Pastor Scott Free.
Thank you, bro.
Trendsetter Sense. Thank you.
Yeah, man.
And this is
we do you mind me sharing, like, we have like Instagram, all that stuff?
Man, of course.
City Takers, like,
man,
it's just City Takers. Mine is I Am Scott Free. All my
break them down.
All my handles, I Am Scott Free.
Yes.
On everything.
Yes.
IAMSCOTTFREE. City Takers is City Takers on it. CITYTAKERS. Website is citytakers.com.
Okay, citytakers.com.
Everything lives on that.
Everything is on there.
You'll find everything on
All
there.
the mission work, the church.
You'll find everything on there, right?
Yes, sir.
Crossover ATL has its own website, Crossover Church ATL, but again, you can find everything.
There it is.
One-stop shop.
One-stop shop.
Yeah.
Salute to you.
Thank you,
the
bro.
movement is crazy, and you know, Chosen Journey is full support.
Yeah, well, come on.
Let's go.
We in this together, bro.
Yes, sir. Pastor Scott Free, Trendsetter Sense. You see what it is, man. It's Chosen Journey.